because I don't think they're trying, but I'm gonna get started here. It's 5 o'clock. I'm going to call the October 9th meeting of the Sumner County Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Let the record show all members present except Mr. Harrison. We have approval of the September 11th meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Any changes to the agenda? The agenda stands as written. Let me enter into the record the meeting materials, the zoning resolution, the exhibit packet that we were all given, and the exhibit that will show up on the screen. That being said, the first order of business is a variance for Long Hollow Baptist Church, requesting a variance for county requirements pertaining to building height. The property is located at 3031 Long Hollow Pike, Hendersonville. Sydney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, as you mentioned, what we're considering first is a height variance for Long Hollow Baptist Church, and they are proposing the height variance to this portion of the building. So the property that we're considering for this is this parcel right here, identified on tax map 123, parcel 47. They are requesting a variance from the bulk standards regarding height found in chapter 4, section 404. They're requesting to a variance to go from 35 feet as the maximum height allowed in the RP zone to 49 feet and 4 inches for the building additions. All right, and here's just a aerial imagery of the church property and the surrounding area. Here's the evidence of the public notice requirements being met, and the zoning application where they were notified that the variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals for the height is the path forward. And the variance application, they did provide a revised statement on this that was sent in an email that was just a little bit more elaborate than this. It talked about the reason for the need, and the applicant can expand on that if they would like to. All right. There's the variance request. The building height request is a little bit of a different request. You sometimes see it for fences or signs in this board. But one of the things that have to be clarified here is how we determine the actual building height. Like, what are we looking at when we're measuring that? So we're measuring the vertical distance from the grade plane to the average height of the highest roof surface. And that is, it gets kind of interesting when you're looking at a property this size, so I'll try to clarify when we get to those images a little bit. And another important factor to note here is that the International Building Code does allow for 75 feet or 3 stories for educational occupancies, assembly occupancies, and institutional occupancies, even though our zoning resolution currently does not allow that. is just an overall site layout. Again, just showing the areas where there will be expanding. And a little bit more detail on that. You can see again here. There you go. And this is how the engineers and architects calculated the grade. So if you want a little, if you really like the numbers and are into that, then you can do that math. All right. So when we were talking about the building height, it's measured from this point, the highest point of the building, to 6 feet from the lowest point, and then the average of that is taken. And so that's where the 49 feet and 4 inches is derived from. You can see here there's a pretty significant grade change as they expand across their property. And in this image you can also see that there's, of course, the steeple, but the fly wall is going to be back behind this building, and it's already very close, within a couple of feet, to what's already existing on site there. So they're not expanding above the existing roof line. All right. And here's where staff took a couple photos of the current conditions and also some Google Earth imagery. All right, and this was provided to you in your packet this evening, which is again where the architectural measurements were provided for what's existing on site. And a particular interest, this is hard to read on the screen, but it's about 39 feet. I don't have that in front of me, but already exceeds the 35-foot height. And then this is the flywall that was referenced, and that's the 51 feet. The county records are not what they are currently. When this was constructed, evidently there was some approval on this, and they've gotten a certificate of occupancy and have been operating for quite some time with this building height that exceeds the 35-foot maximum. We could not locate those approvals, and so to keep this clean, we are making sure to go through this process before the board to request the height variance. Let's see here. And then also just wanted to note that the Rural Preservation Zoning District has a 35-foot height maximum, and so that's what they would fall under. I did want to mention or point out that the zoning resolution also does, in the heavy industrial zone, does allow for 50 feet of building height, so it's not setting precedent. It's not something that's just not done throughout the county. There are areas that would allow this building height. Of course, they're not pursuing rezoning to heavy industrial. They're coming before this board for a request that would be more in line with their use. All right. And this is the state law that gives the Board of Zoning Appeals the ability to approve variances where there's exceptional narrowness, shallowness, shape of a property, or topography, or an exceptional or extraordinary situation or condition to such a piece of property, where the strict application of the regulations create hardship on the property owners. All right, and so staff responded to the 8 findings of fact that are used to evaluate the merits of a variance. And I'll read each one of these to you, but essentially the hardship is not created by a property owner. There are conditions on the property that are unique to this lot, that contribute to the proposed construction, and it's really more so in line with the unique functional design needs that are associated with the intended use that are driving part of this request. So it's not a variance that would be requested across the county. And so those are the staff findings, and the applicant also took the initiative to respond to those findings of fact as well. So you all had this in your packet that came out, but just to kind of highlight a little bit of it, they're saying that to remain compliant with parking and buffering requirements, they can't build outward without negative impacts. And so the height variance is the practical way to meet the growing needs of the church for the children's ministry, in order to preserve the green space and the site functions, the flow of the property, and that type of thing. All right, and then the campus is unique in scale and use compared to other properties in the district, and it's not a case of granting a variance that others could easily claim. It's site and use specific. And again, you can see those findings, that were provided to you last week. So the need for taller space is not a design preference, but a functional necessity for classrooms and group circulation. Then, let's see. And you can read here that they will go through the appropriate measures to meet the IBC code in terms of life safety and fire safety and those type of things. The building is fully sprinkled and code compliant. All right. And then, so that brings us to the example motions. Let's see. The first one is to find that the county variance standards are met and approve a request for a variance for the, whoops. Little typo there, it should not be an accessory building, there should be building additions that would be contingent upon the site plan approval, and then also obtaining all zoning, land disturbance, and building permits. As part of that building permit before a CO could be issued, and the life safety and the fire code regulations would have to be met. At this time, the applicant doesn't go through all of those engineered drawings to get approvals through the state fire marshal and that type of thing until they can know that, yes, we are allowed to have this height variance, and then they will go through and certify that the structural components and elements are there to ensure the safety for everyone. So that usually comes at the tail end, but first they need to make sure that they can get the height approved before going through those endeavors, if that helps clarify a little bit. So I've added that as a condition here, but if you're making a motion, feel free to stipulate the items that would go along with it. Number 2, to deny the variance request, and 3, to defer the item for 1 month in order to obtain additional information.
Thank you, Secretary. We have one person signed up to speak at the hearing. Robbie.
He signed on the wrong paper. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was sorry. I signed on the other one. May I?
If you will, turn it on.
Okay.
And it should be a button down in the center. Right in front. There you go. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Sean Foote. Address is 2971 Craft Drive, Nashville, Tennessee. Along with Ben Caraway, we're with DCI, we're the architects for this project. We have history with Long Hollow Church. We were architects for the Student Center building, and we were also architects for the Worship Center that this project butts up to. So we were very honored and happy to be part of Long Hollow's growth. When Long Hollow reached out to us about this project, they said, we have so many families that come to the church, and we need a place for these children to stay. And they emphasized again and again, the point of this is not to bring more people to the church, but to better serve the people that are there. And in a few minutes, I'll let Pastor Robbie speak more to the why of the project. But I wanted to talk through some of the technical details. I think this image right here is a great example of what we're talking about. In order to fulfill the needs, you have kind of two options when you're building a building. Do you go out long and wide, or do you go tall? And just by how constrained this project is between the existing building and the parking lots, there's just not much room to grow. And if you were to grow out into the parking lot, you would displace parking, and that creates a problem in itself. So the fact that the topography against this building is quite interesting. The average grade calculation is kind of funny because on one side of the building it's almost 2 stories above ground, and there's a section of it that's below ground. So it's you can see it right here. It's very complicated about how that comes together. But I mentioned that we had worked on the worship center project because the fly loft in that building is about 50 feet tall. And even though that project was done before my time, everybody associated with the project said, yeah, we had to go request a variance for that because of the 35-foot height limit. So we said, well, let's be very intentional that when we do this project, we're going to stay below that. We know that we had built that, had permission to do it. Nobody can find it. We've worked very hard with Cindy Simpson and all kinds of folks to find that paperwork, and unfortunately we can't. But it's the point is that it's there, and so it was built. We got a certificate of occupancy. So even though we can't find the paperwork, we went through that process. And I just wanted to say that the staff report summarizes the project very well, and it lists all the conditions that we are up against in this. And Ben and I will be able to speak a little bit more to the technical aspects of the request. But right now, I would like for Pastor Rodney to step up and maybe tell you a little bit more about why this project is requested and needed.
Perfect, thanks, Sean. Good to see you guys again. I'm Robbie Galloway, I'm the pastor at Long Hollow. Been here 10 years, believe it or not. And it's amazing to be able to serve our community. I just want to speak to why we're doing what we're doing. Just to put it in context, God has just blessed our church over the past 10 years, but really over the past 2 years, and more recently with the passing of Charlie Kirk. If you guys know, church attendance is up 10% across the country, which is really a good thing. Long Hollow, our church has grown over the past 2 years by 1,800 people in weekly worship. So this is on campus now, and about 300 children. So think of the massive growth, which is a great challenge to have. And when I first came to Long Hollow and followed David Lambert, if you guys are familiar with Brother David, I was really good at pastoring a declining church. I knew how to lose people with the transition, I jokingly say. But by God's grace, He's continued to bless our church. And so the last few years have just been exponential growth. One of the things we're doing here, as you can see, we're just trying to accommodate the people that are already coming. Parking is a premium. Traffic flow is something we want to keep intact. And so to lose our parking lot would really be a hindrance to us long term. So we're trying to go up. The neat thing about this project is, if you notice, because it's going to be built in the gully, so just to frame it for you guys who are familiar with the property, if you're standing at Tower Hill and you're looking toward Long Hollow, on Long Hollow Pike, you'll notice there's a steep grade that goes from the neighborhood here, which I think is Long Hollow Point. It actually slopes down, which is interesting. We're actually going to build in the gully, and from the street, it would all right here. So you see this gully right here. From the street, it only will look like a 2-story building, which is interesting how that works out. And so we're going to go up to accommodate the students or the kids at the time. And so we think it's going to look good. In fact, for most people, you won't even notice it's there really, because it will be built in a space we already have allocated. And again, I just want you to hear my heart on this. Long Hollow's always been a church that loves the city. We've always ministered to the city, and you know that from graduations and trainings and police department coming in, sheriff's office. I'll tell you 2 cool things that God placed in our heart a few years ago that have come to fruition. One of them is God put two charges on my heart. One was to end hunger in Sumner County, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with what we're doing here, but my son Ryder plays for Beach football, And when he was in middle school, there was a boy in the team, but he was walking home, believe it or not, in the summer heat, 100 degrees. He was going to walk 3 miles down Center Point. We picked him up, dropped him off, and my son said, I don't think he eats when he goes home. Something to that effect. And I said, what? And he said, no, he doesn't have food. He eats at school when he doesn't have food. And I was like, in our county, on our watch, people are going home hungry. So we started to do a little research. We started to do a little research and found out that this is crazy. There are 450 kids that are classified as homeless in Sumner County. This is our county. And I couldn't sleep at night. I went to bed, sleepless nights, thinking, we have to do something about this. So we started an initiative a year ago called End Hunger in Sumner. And you'll be hearing more about this, but right now I'm happy to share with you. Our people got behind it, and we're putting hundreds of thousands of dollars behind this. We actually just found out last week, we now adopted 10 schools. So what this means is kids that go home from school don't eat on the weekends because they don't have the lunches. Or better yet, when there's a snow day, our kids get excited, they don't, because they won't eat for a week. Well, that's all changed now. So we have pantries in schools, Beach, in Gallatin. We just realized that now we have 10 schools that we have adopted to the tune of 120 kids. Now, we have a long way to go, 450, so that's an initiative we're doing. Second initiative, what I think is really cool is we are now broadcasting the Long Hollow weekly worship services in the Sumner County Jail. There are, this is crazy to think about, there are 220 to 230 men and women, we do the women at 4 and the men at 6, who are worshiping the Lord, praising God, accepting Christ, and they're getting out and coming to our church. We have one of our best greeters who I baptized, Brother Bruce, in the jail, who's now standing at the door welcoming. So anyway, 2 really cool initiatives I thought you guys may not know about, want to hear about. So I just want you to know, we're for the community. We feel like this will help us. We're not trying to build for bigger. We're actually just trying to accommodate the already increase in attendance already. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Pastor. I just want to say, I don't do that. I just want to say the staff report, like I mentioned from Cindy Simpson, was we felt it covered all the points. And so we're here to answer any technical questions you may have on the project. Otherwise, I'll leave it up to you.
Board, are there any questions on the request? Seeing no one has any questions, does anyone else care to speak to this request? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. What's the will of the board?
I move that we adopt option 1, example motion,
1 ABC.
or maybe it's
Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you. Next item of business, Aaron and Glenda Speakman are requesting a variance from Sumner County requirements regarding a proposed accessory building within a required side yard. Sydney?
Yes, sir. All right. So, as you mentioned, they are requesting a variance for a garage that's 20 by 35, 875 square feet, into the side yard setback. And this request is, they're requesting to go from a side yard setback of from 20 feet to 5 feet. This property is located on 1.44 acres and is, as you mentioned, 1025 Emerald Valley. All right, and here you can get a little bit of a sense of what's going on with the property. It does have some encumbrances. And what you can't see here is that there's quite a bit of topographical issues that make it challenging to build back into the property here. And then you can see what's around it. And there's a large gap between this property and the house that was constructed over here. Sometimes these lines, these superimposed lines on the GIS can be off quite a bit, but this just gives you a rough approximation. All right, and this is the variance request. They're requesting it for a detached garage, and then, I'm sorry, that's the zoning compliance. This is the variance request here. And then, just so you can read it, the topography on the lot is extreme. The existing septic system is immediately behind the house and at the bottom of the hill. And there's a large backup soils area for the lot that's located at the bottom of the hill. And the rear of the lot is also further limited by the 100-year floodplain. So there's a few encumbrances on this property. The variance the owner seeks is a side minimum building setback from 20 feet to 5 feet for the detached garage. All right, and then, so as part of this request, they are also amending the soils area, because where it sits currently, this will be a better image of it. This is the paved soils area here, and then their field lines are here, and so you can see the topography challenges right here. So they're going to be amending the soils area if this variance is requested. But what they're requesting is for the garage to be on this side property line, about, I believe, 12 feet, 10 to 12 feet from the house there. All right. And this is the bulk standards found in Chapter 4, Section 404, that they're requesting the variance from. And let's see. And then there's additionally the accessory structures that are located beside principal structures must be primary setbacks. So what this is saying is if it was behind the home, entirely the rear plane of the home, then it could be 5 feet from the rear and side yard property setbacks. But because they're requesting it to be beside the home, then they have to meet that 20-foot primary setback. And so they're requesting a variance from that requirement. And again, the state statutes that say there has to be difficult conditions with the topography that are unique to the lot, and the variance must be the minimum required to relieve that hardship. Okay. So here's the staff findings on this one. There are challenges that make proposed construction difficult, and they are unique to this lot. The financial returns are not the primary issue. The hardship with the topography and smaller usable building area was not created by the property owner. The applicant states the variance is the minimum to make use of the land, and then no evidence of any difficulty for the light and air and safety to the public has been presented. And this will give you a little bit better idea of what's going on, a little bit without actually walking the property. I don't recommend, going on somebody's property, but without doing that, these are the pictures that we had. And you can see there's a pretty steep decline that starts very close to the rear of that home. And then, let's see, just for a little bit of perspective, here's the neighbor's house. And this would be the approximate location they're proposing to put the garage. Additionally, in your packet, the HOA sent their acknowledgement of the request, and several of the neighbors signed a petition saying that they were okay with the request as well. And so that leads to the example motions. And example number 1, to approve the request for the variance for the accessory building, provided that all permits and then also the 3-page plat amendment documenting the variance and the amended soils area be approved as part of the condition, and then 2, to deny the variance request, and 3, to defer the item for an additional month for more information.
Thank you, Susan. We have 3 people signed up. Sean Foote, you care to speak?
I believe he was with Long Hollow.
Oh,
I think.
wrong. And Ben Caraway, James Toomey.
Yes.
I'm gonna make this very brief.
If you will, punch the red button.
There you go.
State your name and address for the record.
My name is James Toomey. I live next door at 1027 Emerald Valley Drive. We have a beautiful neighborhood out there. Aaron and his wife have an immaculate property. They keep it great. There's 9 homes in our HOA. All of us have signed that we want to let him build this garage. We think he'll improve not only his property, but our property. And we just really appreciate y'all taking this.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak to this request? Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Motion number 1.
We have a motion to approve example 1 and a second. Discussion. All in favor say aye. All like sign. Motion carries unanimously. It is approved. Cindy?
And that just leaves to the administrative renewals. We had one this month for lawn care service. And then
I need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye. We are adjourned.